AP US History. This is a special supplemental to celebrate Constitution Day. Yes, every year, September 17th, we celebrate the anniversary of the 1787 signing of the Constitution. And since 2004, it has been federal law to teach you about Constitution Day. Now, nobody loves the Constitution more than me. As you know, and our two students who are a little newer don't know, I love the Constitution so much that each and every article and amendment is tattooed on my back. That is commitment. I love the Constitution. That said, I think it's pretty weird we have to celebrate it on this particular day. Not because we shouldn't celebrate it, but because in AP US history, we go through the Constitution, the convention, and then the Bill of Rights, and then every single amendment and almost every single administration that works under that Constitution from that point forward. So we cover this thing inside and out. But the law is the law, so we will, of course, observe Constitution Day. So that's what we're essentially doing by talking about this here. Now, in U.S., I have a little sort of pop quiz about the Constitution, but in AP, I want to tell you that there are different things on the AP exam about the Constitution. The creation of the Constitution and the Constitutional Convention are going to be on the AP exam much more than, say, the articles of the Constitution. That's more of an AP government thing. The interpretation of the Constitution, strict versus loose, that's on the Constitution, or on the AP exam, history. Every amendment to the Constitution, absolutely fair game for U.S. history. But really, one of the bigger chunks on any AP exam is the list of Supreme Court cases that help us sort of flesh out or define what constitutional rights really look like in action. Starting with Marbury versus Madison, which is going to be a huge case, which is going to be a case that basically says that the Supreme Court has the right to interpret the Constitution because the Supreme Court interpreted it so that they could. Now, wrap your head around that. Why is this the rule? Because we interpreted that this is the rule. Why? Because only we can interpret it, and we interpreted it to say that we could interpret it. I agree with it. Ironically, I mean, I'm not dogging it. It's just a hilarious justification. It makes total legal sense if you read the Constitution that they should, but really, really funny that they had to have a court case to say that we have the right to interpret it because we interpreted it to say that only we could interpret it. So we'll cover cases like that, and McCullough versus Marion, Dred Scott, Plessy versus Ferguson. Some of these are bad decisions that let us know where the country was, like Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott, where we were in terms of how we viewed the rights of our citizens and how, thank goodness, we evolved. And so, for example, Brown versus Board overturning that. Others deal with entirely different things. You look at Miranda versus Arizona. That's about your right to know your rights and to, for example, know your right to have an attorney and to not self-incriminate. So, you know your Miranda rights because a case was overturned where Ernesto Miranda, his prosecution fell apart because somebody lied to him and said he didn't have the right to a lawyer. So to avoid a criminal having their case thrown out in the future, you have your Miranda rights read to you. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one can be appointed to you, yada, yada, yada. Those of you who can finish that, either watch a lot of Law and Order or have your own history with the law. I'll stay out of that. Baker versus Carr, Engel versus Vitale, these are much more recent. So is Miranda versus Arizona in the 60s, where we talk about things like how we are going to define your representation and where, how many representatives are fair, or Engel versus Vitale, school prayer and what that means and what it looks like in a public school and what it can't look like. But I'd say the most controversial one up here, at least for the era that we are currently in, is Roe versus Wade. And eventually we'll get to that, but that's a 1973 case. But that is the one that makes currently abortion legal. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of voters in the 2020 presidential election who really, and I'm not making this as a judgment, who really are voting strictly on the stance of the presidential candidate when it comes to Roe v. Wade, because they're under the presumption that any Republican candidate for president, i.e. Donald Trump this time, will appoint a Supreme Court justice who will be another vote against Roe v. Wade, or they're looking at Joe Biden because they're under the presumption that because he's a Democrat, he will appoint a Supreme Court justice who will support Roe v. Wade. And so there are some people who don't like the politics of one of those two candidates, but will vote for that candidate that most aligns with their views on abortion. And that is, listen, there's no rule book about how you need to vote, but that's how big of a deal that case is, that there are millions of voters on both sides of that issue who are going to vote for president based solely on that issue. I even, and I'll bring it up when it's relevant, I ran for city council and I did win 3 of the 4 times I ran. Lost the first time. But the first time I ran, I had 3 voters asking me my stance on Roe v. Wade, which blew me away because I was running for city council. And boy, does city council not have anything to do with federal level Supreme Court decisions. So, interesting though. I mean, certainly they're right to know, I guess. I don't know if it helped me or hurt me. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a brief look at the Constitution. I promise we are going to spend our due diligence on this Constitution. Today is Constitution Day. Listen, celebrate it. It is an amazing day and an amazing document that is, frankly, bigger and better than any one individual. So, hope that gave you some idea of today. And if you didn't know I had a tattoo of the Constitution on my back, well, listen, what can I tell you? I am serious about my Constitution. Have a great day.